Alrighty, welcome everybody to a live edition of Transformers Reviews. Now guys, today what we are doing is we are taking a look obviously at the Legacy G2 version of Optimus Prime, which I was not planning on picking up yet. One of the things that I'm surprised about, because really I want the Scourge version of this, but I was kind of like, well, let's just go ahead and do this. So anyway, looking at the guy's trailer here, one of the things that's pretty interesting about it is that right now it kind of looks a little nuts, which you got to admit, that's the vibe of G2, to be honest, is just guns extravaganza, which in itself is kind of like maybe what gave the inspiration for Siege, because really, if you look at this, here we're using COG and a lot of the stuff that came from Siege, because this deck without it is really kind of just plain and boring. And I mean, we'll look at that, but this is probably utilizing it to maximum effect, if I'm going to be honest. But let's go ahead and let's actually show you what it looks like once it's stripped of everything. So we'll just go ahead and start taking stuff off here. I'm not worried about reassembling COG at all. All the 1,000,001 blast effects we got going on here. Let's see here. Continue on. Take that off. And you can already see, just taking the stuff off that is not part of it leaves it really just kind of bare, because at the end of the day, this is pretty much what you're left with for the trailer, which, I mean, for the price point we're going for, okay, but, you know, I don't know. Maybe I've just gotten a little spoiled because of the original Scourge from RID that I got, which in itself is just the black repaint of the G2 Optimus. Now, he does not come with these guns. It would have been awesome if he did. However, he didn't. So, we have to take those off too. Now, if you can see, he does have his missile pods open. And one of the things that one of my friends was talking about is he kind of wished that the missile pods would actually be shooting the missiles. And so I have to agree that that would have been cool. However, as you can see, they are just strictly molded in there. But you fold those down and he has the ever so fabulous shoulder cannons. Now, one of the interesting things is when you go to look at the Matrix is, you have to pop up his chest there, is when looking at it, and even like, I'm not going to pull it out for the live stream, but it is pretty interesting because it is a little bit smaller, it feels like, in some respects, and it's also a lot flatter than the average Matrix that came with like the Earthrise Prime and Rodimus and Galvatron and all that. So it is a slightly different mold, at least it feels like. Well, we'll go ahead and we'll pull it out there. If I had fingernails, this would be a lot easier. There we go. So, yeah, I mean, it just feels a lot thinner and a lot flatter, which, I mean, to fit within this guy's chest, I get why they did that. However, it's, you know, it's just one small aspect. So, anyway, in looking at this guy, I mean, I love the entire vibe he's going for, because, again, the only reference I had up until now was like this, and I mean, you know, it's showing its age, to be honest, I'm not gonna lie, but it is kind of nice to see what the original intent for this mold was. And man, I get it, you know. And I just saw a comment, yeah, I understand, it's not gonna have, the trailer is not gonna have the same amount as the old one, which we'll show them off, and I get that, you know, price points and all that stuff, so I totally get what you mean. So anyway, looking more at that, like I was talking about with the trailer, the inspiration for it actually comes from this right here. So, as you get, well, it's not going to fit in frame, but this is basically the inspiration. Now, the one thing that the new one doesn't have that I was kind of, you know, I'm not surprised it doesn't have, like, you know, the power pump launcher for the missile. Instead, now it just has the actual repair claw, which, you know what, I mean, that does change the vibe on it a little bit, but I'm down with that. And I mean, the other thing that is kind of amusing about it is that the launcher that comes with it, the cannon actually here, was inspired by the actual missile launcher from the old guy, which, okay, you know what? It's a decent enough thing. Plus, if you wanted to, Prime can hold it, although, I mean, really, it doesn't do him any favors. But again, I love how they multitask stuff because it's meant to double as this also, which, you know, it's kind of a weird thing that, you know, I know it's G2's vibe to be a little bit extra, but I love how they just kind of like simplified it, to be honest. Because it does kind of bring that down to a little bit more of a ground level because, I mean, look at the size of the blaster on Scourge. That's a little bit nutty, if I'm going to be honest. Now, the one thing that one of my favorite features about Scourge was his Sword of Fury. So they went ahead and they've done that with the new Optimus, which, okay, funny thing about this that I just noticed whenever I was looking at him last night is that, as you can see, he has open hands. Well, on the sword, it has a slight notch. So you actually have to fit it in there in a particular way. So again, it's maybe just because I was spoiled by this guy all these years that this does look a little bit diminutive compared to the original. And I mean, even by itself, that sword just doesn't seem to be maybe an accurate proportion to Optimus. So I was like, okay, well, what if we took another sword? And this is the one for the Shattered Glass Megatron. And it's, you know, it's about the same size, so it really doesn't do him any favors. However, back whenever I was collecting movie figures, I actually got the Cavalier Sword for that Optimus. But when you look at it, these colors, because it is just mainly his main thing, it actually fits really well like with his colors. So if you wanted to have him have a little bit bigger sword, you just fit it in there sideways, turn like that. And here we go. Now he has a little bit bigger of a sword and it more echoes the feel that I'm looking for with this guy. So overall, you know, he looks really good with other figures that, I mean, we never saw G2 Optimus standing next to someone like Silverstreak here. However, I mean, I think he'd look good with a lot of the boys. I don't have a lot of them in robot mode on hand, but, you know, again, this is just me kind of just hanging out with you guys and just chilling doing this review. It's, you know, this is not our normal thing. We're just kind of hanging out, just freestyling it. So that's why it's not as polished as usual. So anyway, how does this guy stack up in vehicle mode? Well, we'll go ahead and we'll take a look at that. Take the sword out of his hand. All right, so let's go ahead. There we go. Fold it down like that. Only done this like 3 times or so bear with me. Wasn't planning on doing a live video this morning. However, I think that while I'm doing this here, I do have to mention that if any of you have had the chance to mess with the bulkhead figure, that I was actually kind of surprised at how good the bulkhead figure was. And because initially I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm not gonna collect the Prime figures, you know. I mean, I love Prime, don't get me wrong, but I was not all about it. And then my friend's like, hey, why don't you try taking a look at this? And I'm glad he did, because that figure, oh my gosh, it is one that is hard to put down because it's that much fun. So you turn these like this. Oh, and that's the other thing that I've noticed is that on my copy at least, the arm does love to come off that mushroom peg. So we'll just go ahead and pop it back on there. All right, I think that'll be all right for right now. Okay. So this chest piece is a little bit fun. So you got to take that and fold the abs. That does love to pop off too. Some of the QC issues on this thing are a little bit interesting. So we fold it like that. We'll bring the truck nose there. It's starting to take some shape. I like that. So go ahead and do that. And now, let's see here. Oh yeah, because you got to flip the legs around, bring the crotch in close, and then bring the legs up. There we go. And then bring that, and then these fold up to form the back half of the cab. And, you know, I do get some of the vibes from, let's see here, I do get, you know, some of the vibes from the movie Prime just due to the flames and stuff. But overall, for a truck mode, that's not bad. Yeah, so it's pretty cool. And, you know, let's see here, what does it say? Well, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to read the comments as they come in. So the thing that is that, you know, while I normally am a stickler for things like cartoon accuracy and stuff, I'm willing to give figures like him a chance just to kind of see what they do in order to be different. And let's see here. Okay, so Optimus is taken care of. So to go ahead and put this in position for tanker mode, you have to fold up. Oh, let's see here. I'm trying to remember how I did this yesterday. Okay, so that actually folds down to form that. Okay. Put this in here, which, to be honest, what I do actually kind of like about this is that it does have enough storage for the axe and the sword when you put them in here. Because the one thing that they mention is they're like, oh, fold up the axe and put it here. Well, whenever it's covering that port, you obviously can't use the trailer. So, and the other thing is, just like the original Scourge, they actually tell you, oh, well, go ahead and put the sword right here. Well, on my copy at least, and I'm not saying this is a line-wide thing, but it doesn't really like to stick in there that well. And it does have a tendency to kind of, if we go ahead and we'll, oh, I got it in there upside down. Which, I mean, you can kind of see, it's kind of like warping the sword, making the blade kind of bend right here, and I do not like that. I've never liked whenever Transformer stuff does stress it. So they actually have a dedicated place here in the trailer, like that. So if we go ahead, we do this. Oh, I got that upside down, my bad. There we go. And so we just go ahead and we take the axe. You don't even have to collapse it up. So here, make sure that all lines up. Here we go. And I don't know if this was brought out or not, but I like the fact that you can actually have a stand for the deal to actually stand upright like a normal tanker trailer would. But it is cool that it does, you know, I know, small, insignificant feature, but I do dig that. So here is our boy that, yeah, that is actually really kind of cool. Now, the original Generation 2 Optimus, on his trailer and everything, he had like a wild deco on his tanker trailer. And, I mean, to be honest, it was a little bit gaudy. I'm not going to lie. It was a little bit wild and crazy. So, anyway, the other thing that I was mentioning, let's see here if we can go ahead. We won't transform Scourge's trailer, but I'll show you what I was talking about with the missile thing earlier. Is this is actually the launcher from the top of Scourge's trailer. So you just load that in there, boom, and fire it. So that is actually what, again, that is also supposed to represent. So to complete the trailer look, there we go. And we'll just do Scourge himself, because he's not that hard. Come on, it's a Generation 2 figure. So go ahead and take the gun out of his hands. And, you know, obviously we're not aiming for size similarities or anything. So, yeah. For a guy, speaking of myself, that never had a Generation 2 Optimus Prime and only having Scourge, it's kind of nice just to see, you know, sort of what the original intent was. Because, you know, these guys have their own unique personalities, and just, they're very different, even though they look the same. So if we go ahead and look at the grills, we can see how that's been updated. And I mean, just overall, yeah, I love a big truck. Like Ultra Magnus, he was one of my favorite, or he is one of my favorites. I don't know what I'm saying. I still have him. He's one of my favorites. So we go ahead and we'll pull in. Yeah, Bulkhead, what are you doing with your kind of Ukrainian vibe over here? Don't keep that on. So you can kind of see how he stacks up the old Bulkhead. And then here we have Blue Streak in his vehicle mode. So yeah, definitely with the boys, looking good. And man, I'm kind of anxious, and I'm kind of reconsidering, do I really want Scourge now? Because I mean, it's a good mold and it's a good figure, and I like everything about it. I really have no complaints other than, I don't like the sword and the axe because they feel really diminutive, especially for as bulky of a guy as we saw earlier in robot mode. But overall, I mean, aside from those two small complaints and the fact that, the only other gun he has is this one on top, I mean, what else is there to say about it? I mean, yeah. It's so nice to kind of see a different take on Optimus, because, we're so used to the flat nose, flip cab. And, yeah, I'm really digging it. So anyway, guys, like I said, this was just kind of a chill deal where we can all just kind of hang out, just kind of take a relaxed, laid back look at Optimus. And I just saw the comment about the sword combining with the axe. If you guys like it, that's cool. For some reason, I don't like the way it looks. And I mean, that's just personal preference. Like I said, if you love it, that's great. So we'll go ahead and we'll actually take a look at that. Thank you for bringing that out. That is one thing that I forgot to do. So where's the notch? Okay, so it has to go like this. And I mean, yes, you are absolutely correct. That does make a definitely bigger sword. It's this, it's just not my thing. But you know what? Hey, that can't please everybody, right? Myself included. So other than that, guys, really, I hope you enjoyed our look at the Legacy Generation 2 version of Optimus. Definitely glad to have him in the collection now. So anyway, guys, until next time, I guess we'll see you guys in a review then.